Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Friends of King Alfred Buses Christmas Party 2024. And I salute you on your punctuality. Some of you have been here for hours. But anyway, delightful to see you. We've got a real full house out tonight. In fact, if we had any more, we'd be wondering what to do with you all. So there we are. Now, so tonight is effectively an evening in 4 parts. The first part is the traditional FoKAB meeting starter, which is the latest news from the front, as it were. And when we've got our way through that, we will move on to trying to polish off what we've produced behind. And hopefully that will be... Don't swig at the bottles on that table. We'll come to that in a minute. But anything on this side will be ideal. Thirdly, we're going to look at some pictures of King Alfred buses. I mean, that's what we're for, isn't it? So hopefully we'll rattle through them quite quickly, but they're all contemporary, old pictures from 3 collections. One of them is from Robert Jowett, and a lot of those pictures will be familiar to you if you have read the book, because they are mostly in it. If you haven't read the book and you'd like to, we have 1 copy only here available to you, available at 20 quid, and we'll sell it to you. But so that's, and they are like rocking horse manure, these things. So that's where we are with that. And while we're talking about things to buy, we have FoKAB calendars for 2025, of which there are about a dozen left, I think, a baker's dozen perhaps. But anyway, they are available at £12.50, or I suppose we could post them to you for more money, but a bit silly since you're here. Anyway, so that's that. Anyway, so that's Robert Jowett's collection. It's completely jumbled up. It's literally, they're all, every picture that you see tonight has been rendered available to us by Phil Gilbert. And with Robert Jowett, it's quite random, it's quite amazing. So you get this, and then you get that, and you get that, and you get the other. But that's quite fun. Secondly, we have a small collection from George Kneller. For those of you who remember Flexford, next to our buses were 2 buses that never quite made it into doing anything. One was a Southampton City AEC Regent, and the other was a Portsmouth City Leyland PD2. And they belonged to George Kneller, who at times could be really helpful to us, and at other times took no notice of us whatsoever. But anyway, his son Gary works at Stagecoach, where I work, and he suddenly appeared in October and said, "Look, I found some pictures that Dad took." A little package marked 1961-63, and they're great fun. It's a little snapshot on time that we can look at. And thirdly, some of you will know the name of Fred York. I always remember, here we are, there we are. Now we need some chairs, folks, because we've got, this is our president, Richard Chisnell, this is Maureen, and welcome everybody, welcome, bringing gifts, we like people who do that. Good, well, that's fantastic, everybody, because we are sort of complete now, because we have our president present, and our president and Maureen have had quite a year one way and another. But anyway, here they are, and looking very Christmassy, and you're very, very, well, I won't sign them in just now if you don't mind. But anyway, so welcome, thank you. And so that's rather good, isn't it? So we have the real thing. We have Nigel Sandy, who actually drove King Alfred coaches, and the other person here who drove, and buses, come to that, wasn't it? And the other person here who drove King Alfred buses was you, Richard, wasn't it? One of those pictures will appear on the slideshow, so if you can stay for that, of course, or if you don't nod off for it. Some people will be asleep long before we get to the second slide, I'm sure. So I was just saying, as you came in, that the slideshow that's after the food, so hopefully you'll be, anyway, so it won't matter what's on the slide. So the third element of it is a chap called F.W. York, Fred York. Now, I remember Fred York as being, or rather the name F.W. York, one of the earliest bus books I had was Buses Annual for 1965. And within it was an article about buses in Singapore by F.W. York. And what I didn't know was that he was busy cycling from Fareham, where he lived, to Winchester and taking photographs of King Alfred buses in exotic places. I don't mean in Malibu. I mean in Andover Road, but you know, not the Broadway. And pictures that are not in the Broadway are like gold dust, especially if they're old ones. So those are the three elements of our picture show, and that will take you back to the 1960s. So for some of you, it'll be a voyage of reminiscence. For some, it'll be utterly boring. Sorry. And for others, so take a lot of food and then you will be asleep. And for others, it will be an education perhaps. You'll see some things you haven't seen before. And remember that our running days are always designed to replicate some of that feeling. And I think we do actually manage to do it from time to time. And the greatest chance is on New Year's Day. And if you hadn't noticed, New Year's Day is coming quite soon, because I think it's around about, what is it, the 14th or 15th, is it today? 14th? Friday the 13th yesterday. Yes. I went to the dentist yesterday and they said, oh yes, next one 6 months. How about Friday the 13th of June? Yeah. So, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Anyway, so there we are. But you might have noticed therefore that the 1st of January is a couple of weeks away only. I'm not sure what is between us and then. Something else happening, is it? Yeah, no, we don't know. Anyway, 1st of January, we've got 8 buses out, and there will be moments, there being no stagecoach buses in the town, when actually it will look a bit like some of those photographs. And that's the best thing in a sense. That's, for me anyway, that's one of the things that makes it all worthwhile. And all is quite a fag on occasions. And as usual, in the run-up to Christmas, we aren't thinking about Santa or anything like that, because we're wondering, Henry particularly, where's he gone, Henry? Right in the back. He's secreted himself on the back row, beyond the back row actually, because his most important charge, which is 811, is proving to be cantankerous. And 811 is one of these, now you see it, now you don't type buses, and we've had it behaving on top form, and we've had it stopped completely on more than one occasion. And it's currently in its stopped mode with its fuel pump in Droitwich Spa. Yes, so it's not very handy, really. So we are ever optimistic, and we have a team of wonderful people who are committed to trying to get this bus to go on the 1st of January.
We're getting to the point where and the pump jumps off on its own.
Yes, quite so. So anyway, 811 is you know, bit of a risk, let's put it like that. At the moment, it's a dead cert not. But I'm a great believer in lastminute.com, and we've certainly had many a running day where I can remember in the old days, we never had a running day where we weren't still working on the buses the night before.
And the blinds.
And the blinds, there you are, you see. So 31st of December, 3 o'clock in the morning, we're just finishing up, ready for the day, yes? So, mind you, we were younger then. You might not have been, you may have been just the same as you are now, but I was younger then, I must admit. So anyway, so 811 is a bit of a snag. Now, if you live in Winchester and you read the Chronicle, and let's face it, who wouldn't read the Chronicle in Winchester? That you will have seen the article about the bread company. Now, what are they called? Ponsford's Bread. Now, when we were looking for adverts to put on the side of 811, period pieces to be sign written on, we were seeking really simple messages. And the Ponsford Bread message, which is on the side of various buses in this book, is about one of the few that's really big and easy, and we thought it would be really simple to replicate, you know, to give it to the sign writer and say, we want that on the side of the bus. And it's this big in the picture in the book, and we want it 13 foot long. So it's got to be simple and straightforward. Anyway, so we did this, and the signwriter duly put the name on the side of the bus, Ponsford's Bread, and we looked. There's a picture, and there's another picture, and it's got Ponsford's and Bread. They're really big, right? You can see them easy. And then it's got another word, which we know is Vienna. And then it had another word. Do you know? We could not work out what that word was. We tried everything. We thought of this word and that word and the other word and everything else. And could we find out what it was? No, not at all. So in the end, we decided that we had to put something else on instead. So in inverted commas, you'll see on the real thing, it says delicious Vienna bread. We thought that was complimentary with an I, you know, so that'd be all right. And as soon as we'd done that and paint was dry, Alex here produces an advert from the 1952 Warren's Guide, Ponsford's Marina Vienna bread. We'd never have got that in a million years. Anyway, so that was the first frustration. The next thing that happens is Ian. Ian has a car that needs an MOT. Yes, so of course, living in Stanmore, he goes to Salisbury to get it, right? And I think it's to do it under cover of dark, you know. Anyway, so there's Ian Scheuer away in Salisbury, and he's sitting minding his own business. Well, he isn't actually. He's flapping his ears, and there's another bloke in the office, right? And somehow or other he gleans that the bloke's name is Ponsford. And being Ian, he immediately says, "You're not the Ponsford, you know, to do with the Ponsford bread people." And the chap said, "But I am. It was my granddad's firm." And so there started an exercise by which we invited the Ponsford family to come to Winchester. And they came a fortnight ago on a lovely sunny day. Perhaps it was 3 weeks, actually, thinking about it. How time flies, you know, getting old all the time, aren't we? Not you, of course, but I am. And so they came. And they couldn't bring Mr. Ponsford himself. He would have been 140, I think. But they did bring Nigel Ponsford, age 92, and his wife, Daphne, age 93, who hopped on the bus and ran up the stairs as if she was 43. It was absolutely amazing. Nigel was in a wheelchair, but when he arrived, he looked at the advert on the side of the bus, and he immediately told us the secrets of marine Vienna bread, which involves the use of steam injected into the loaf as it is being baked, which gives it a beautiful, he said, crusty top. And so they had 4 shops in Winchester and 1 in Southampton and 1 in Salisbury. Would have been handy for you, wouldn't it? And that story was told in the pages of the Hampshire Chronicle this week. It's the current edition. And it's a nice example of how what we do works its way into the community. And when Daphne was confronted with all this, she started talking about what it was like to run a shop in the high street, and all about the neighbours and the people up the road and the people in the next shop who also advertised on the side of King Alfred buses, the United Friendly Insurance Company. She said we liked them particularly because the man there had an area to manage, and so he had a car. The only person in the high street to have a car. Those are the days, weren't they? It's not like that now. Anyway, so that was that. So that's 811, folks.
And it performed for me.
And it performed, as Keith reminds me, perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. And then, since then, it's gone into complete shutdown and wouldn't go at all. Wouldn't start, wouldn't run, wouldn't do anything. So has it got a life of its own? Do you know, it's been launched twice, and we've got it slated to be launched a 3rd time, and it probably won't turn up at that one either. Ah, so frustrating. But there you are. That's the way of the world, isn't it? So that's 811, and we've got another bus which we are coaxing through the MOT. I think it's booked for next week, which is 417, which for one reason or another has been giving us a bit of trouble. Now, if you go on YouTube, you'll find Alex's latest film, which I am sure is Alex's best film so far, because each one that he does is better than the one before. And we keep saying, God, that's the best film we've seen. And then the next one is better still. And in amongst the pictures there is 417 with 3 worried engineering types underneath it. and wondering why oil was dribbling out of it like out of a, yes, yeah. So anyway, it's going for MOT on Wednesday. It would be quite useful if it was operational, particularly given that 811 might not be. So we shall see. If you're the proprietors of 16 vehicles, anything can happen, and it probably will. Because we've got 704 off the road with a steering fault, yes? Yes, the power steering ram, that's coming back from Port Glasgow any time. Anyway, right. Now, it's nearly time for I can see your tongues hanging out. Some of you had to have cups of tea just to keep you going in the meantime. But anyway, the other thing to say tonight is this. We have been considering what to do about 708. It's a year since the morning of the 9th of December 2023, a date that will always be one of those dates, you know, and certainly in my calendar and for a lot of us. That was the morning when we realised that there had been a very, very serious fire and that a huge amount of destruction had taken place, and William will know more about it than anyone. 4 Hanson Dorset buses totally destroyed, a coach completely destroyed, a Southdown VR, I can't think what else, a Northern Ireland Bristol RE. In amongst all this was our Olympic, of course. And it's the only vehicle that at the end of the conflagration looked like it was still some sort of a bus. It sort of had a vision. It looked a bit washed out, I have to say, but it did have a front, and it looked like it was still our old friend 708. And you probably remember that we had a tremendous battle to get the vehicle out of the site and rescue it and bring it home, because our insurance company did not want to let us have the wreck. They would let us have the money, they'd pay the money on the insurance, but they did not want us to have the wreck. And eventually we managed to get somebody, you may recall this story, who was able to write to them, and their input, their involvement through the National Association of Road Transport Museums was enough to convert a no. The letter arrived, was written on the Thursday, and by the Tuesday they'd settled and written us a letter of apology and all the rest of it. But we had taken the precaution, ladies and gentlemen, before any of that, to pull the bus out of the site with the help of the contractors, but more importantly, Richard Maidment, to get the vehicle out and bring it back to safety in New Chesil Works here. That was a huge achievement and a key moment, really, because once that bus was back in our own control, we were able to consider what to do with it. And as you know, we have been scratching our heads and looking at it and thinking, what on earth, you know, where do we go with this? But the trustees met on Wednesday, and we have made the decision that we are going to proceed with the reconstruction of this vehicle. And so there will be a massive fundraising exercise, which will start in the spring. And there will also be, for those people who are closely involved, and this will be open to anyone to come to it who has a proper involvement, you know, really wants to get stuck into it, we will have a meeting in January to set the plans for that. So more about that anon, but the key point is, what do we do with this? Well, we've come to the conclusion that we must take it and reconstruct it. It will not be quite the same as it ever was. It can't be. You look at the wreck today, it has no roof. Well, that's gone. There's nothing we can do with that. But what we can do is recapture the sense of it. And that's what we will be doing. It will take time, it will take money, but we are going to structure it in such a way that it doesn't take away from the rest of the things that we're doing. That's a really, really important feature. We've got 16 buses and 15 of them still need to be managed with 708 going on. And they will be. We will do that. So we'll keep you in touch with what's happening, but I wanted you to know, to be the first to know really, that we have taken that, what I think is quite a momentous decision. We could have decided not to do this. We could have decided just to leave it as a wreck. I don't think that was the right thing, and I'm glad to say that the trustees were unanimous in agreeing to do that. So watch this space as we take that forward. Right, we're turning the lights down, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the time for, ladies and gentlemen, and those of you watching this at home tonight, as it were. Here are some pictures that are random pictures. This is 707 coming up the walls. Amazing to think that, of course, we used to come up the walls until February 73. So that was just to get you in the sense of things. Let's start with George Kneller's collection. Right, so here we have a typical King Alfred bust sitting in the Broadway, and it's 105. And these are all taken in 1961 or 2. Here is 106, by then about 3 years old. Here's another not very good picture of it. Here's a close-up of it. Here it is again. You're enjoying this, girls, aren't you? Here is 107. We can tell it's early because it's got 2 opening front windows, and they knocked one of them out in November 1961, never to return. So that's that. This is the open-top guy, which lasted until 1966, which would have been rather fun to have that in restoration, wouldn't it? There's another view of it inside the shed. This is a bust called Jinxie, sitting here at the Mild May Arms. You can see the Strongs just to the left of the bust, Strong and Co. Mild May Arms was a vet, and then now it's not even that, is it? Here we have 275. The first post-war buses were 2 of these, 275 and 276. Notice how few opening windows there are upstairs on the offside. None. Yeah, air conditioning. Yes, that's right. This is a very wibbly-wobbly picture of 323. That's a better picture of 324. Notice the advert for John Peel, which is not a radio program, of course, but cigarettes. So there you are. That's 381. Here we have 412. When almost completely new, here it is. Look how long it is. Amazing. 52 seats. Great big long thing. There's a slightly better version of it. Sitting in the garage at Hillside. And here we have another one. Slightly funny print. I think it's in the Broadway. If you look carefully, there's snow on the ground immediately to the left of it and in the background. I think it was taken in March 1962 when the snow had been around since January.
That was the following year.
63, I beg your pardon. Yes, you're right. Thank you very much. And then this is the Albion Valkyrie, but this time withdrawn, just sitting in the garage. Chris Kent will remember riding on these. Yeah. And the Ride of the Valkyries, absolutely, yeah. And as you can see, this is withdrawn, it's got no headlights. As inside, it's quite a nice picture. Here's 494, long before it was going off to America, of course. Look at the pile of snow behind it. Here's another view of it, front view. Here's 594, which was the bus that had doors at the back. Oh, here's 708, look. Yeah, here's another view of it. Look at the difference. You see they're different periods. So that's got an advert on it and a bash on the front corner. Girls, we like these details, you know. Here is 855. This was a dual purpose. There were 2 of these. I love the smell of these buses inside. They smelt of leather right the way through. Absolutely. They were made of leather, of course. Well, some of the seats were. Here's another version. That's in the coach garage. If you go to Quick Fit, you can go in there and see the gangway down to the lower deck, which you can see next to that there. Here's another picture, and here is one of the other. Can anyone remember the Farallanian central garage? No. And finally, Mar 5, which is the first of the Tiger Cubs. And that's the end of George Kneller's collection. So now we're going to go, meantime, that's 495 coming out of Worthy Lane. Look at the cattle market behind, proper cattle market at the time. Right, these are Robert Jarrett's pictures. And here we have the first. Now, this is at the Carfax. It's interesting to note that the offside curb in front of that bus is now further in than the current nearside curb is. That's been eased so much. Getting around those corners, I think Richard would say pulling a big old double-decker around that corner was a bit of an effort. Straight from City Road out into the wilds, this is between Houghton and Horsebridge. Robert got about. And now look at this. This is the A34. I mean, there are 2 other vehicles in it and the Atlantine. Look at that, boys and girls. If you tried to take that picture now, A, you'd be mown down by all the traffic, and B, it would be nose to tail the whole way.
Where is that?
This is between, it's just before Tufton Warren, so it's between Bullington Cross and Whitchurch.
Right.
And the carriageway that the Atlantine is on is still there, but the other carriageway, they use the old road, but they've corrected that now, so it doesn't go over the top of the hill. But anyway, there's a 592 on number 11 coming in from there. Here's the last night, and I think if you look very carefully, you can see Nigel. Nigel, can you see yourself to the left immediately of the front of the bus? There you are. So all these stories are true. That was the last night of the proms, definitely. Here we are in East Stratton. See, these jump about like mad, don't they? Do you think those thatches have all been replaced since 1972? I should think they have. Here we are. This is a more Jowety picture with a young lady and not much else. This, of course, is not a King Alfred bus at all, but the Hanson Sussex bus, which by this time I think was owned by Hollands of Oldbury. But I might be wrong. Here it is again in the Broadway. The Hanson Sussex ran to Stockbridge alongside the King Alfred buses, which is a bit of an interesting thing. These are 3 King Alfred men standing in front of one of the Leyland Comets, very rare to see those, and there's another one alongside. They can't really see, it's a bit fuzzy, and we don't know who that is either for the same reason. But he's standing in front of a rebodied coach, so that's a pre-war coach that's had a new body. The coaches were taken up to Roseacre, which was the Chisnall family home, and hidden, so that when the people came to requisition vehicles in 1940, they went in the depot. So that's quite handy. Here we have 381 going off to the Knackers Yard. It's going off to Morgan's of Waltham Chase. It's being towed out of the depot on its last journey. Really sad, really. Still everything in. And this is a complete change of scene. This is the 2 preserved buses before FoKAB was formed, taken in 1983 at Sutton Scotney. So a long time ago. Here is the other picture of the A34. And in that picture, there are no other vehicles visible. And this, I think, is the return of the 11:30 to Basingstoke, which would have been trundling back here about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Amazing, isn't it? Here we have 323 heading over towards Bar End. Notice the cardboard window, top right. Painted cream in this case. Very, very nice. Must have made it rather dark upstairs. That's 159 Jinxie, dumped after the end of King Alfred at the station. Here is 103, I think, outside the mayor's residence. And here we have a group of happy chappies. I think this is a pre-war coach. If you look at the back axle, girls, note the back axle. It's a very small. Is that a fully floating axle? Who knows about that sort of thing? No, it's all right. Nobody. Right, that's good. Here we have a leopard arriving in the Broadway. Notice how the tree in the triangle, this is just after the triangle's been made in 1972, and the tree is very small. Now it's huge. Looking down from the West Gate. Yeah, it's not actually snowing, although it looks as though it is, I quite agree. Note the traffic going down the West Gate. Here we're reversing into Priors from, what's it now, where's this, Burriton Road, yeah. On the number 20. Crawley Pond, everybody. This is where people like to go. It doesn't have a little house in the middle. Who was it Peter Viggers MP who built a little house in the middle of his pond in Gosport? Or somewhere, yeah. Right, who knows what this is?
Whitchurch?
Yes, on its way to Overton, absolutely, yep. Again, it's full of parked cars now. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to drive up that road nowadays. And this is a very smart-looking bus driver, I think, because that's a bus alongside which he's standing. Don't know who. And this is Les Bennett and Noreen Bell. And Les Bennett was known as, I didn't know this until quite recently, but Mary Curry told me, he was known by his colleagues as Bogey Bennett, because he would pick his nose and then leave the bogies in the cab for other drivers. So, and I always thought he was such a nice man, but there you are. This is just at the very beginning of the one-way system, so this is very, very new to have King Alfred buses coming up the High Street. And in fact, by the time this picture was taken, 4th of February 1971, the writing was on the wall. The license has been surrendered to the Traffic Commissioner. This is 73, yes, 73. Thank you. It's a good thing you're here to correct me, because every other detail's wrong. Sheriff and Ward on the right, not there. Marks and Spencer's on the left, still there. This is Blondie. Now, she's standing beside the same bus, it occurs to me, so they must be mates in some way. Here we have a few buses in the Broadway just after the one-way system introduced. Here's 594 waiting to go to the dump. Very sad. Would have been a nice one to buy, that would have been. In the Broadway, doing the U-turn. And you can see the window on the St. John's rooms along the top row, last but one. It's been painted with the window open. Still like it today if you go and look. Here, that's a funny one, isn't it? And if you look very carefully, there's there's an Scania.
And a Bedford.
Yes, on the Bedford, but the Scania is on Route 6, which is very unusual. So that showing 6 Winnell.
That's why he took the picture.
I think he took the picture. Anyway, let's not go into that. Okay, 324 and 495. Look at the front of 324, all beaten and bashed in. The inside was always more dramatic because all the paint was flaking off where it was. Quite exciting. 3 Tiger Cubs. The Tiger Cub at the back is a dual-purpose one. There's the one that smelled of leather, by which time it had been painted in this rather insipid eau de Nil colour scheme. My old aunties, who I used to stay with, used to call them the pale buses, which was quite a good way of describing them. They used to turn up willy-nilly alongside the others, so you knew to get on them. Now, this is a much older picture. This is a Guy utility that's been sold on and converted for use as a showman's vehicle. Quite neatly done. That's back in Burriton. That's at Stanmore School. Something's happened to the print. But those buses, especially the double-decker, did not come through the arch. So they go down to King's Avenue and turn around, reverse in, or even into the little turning on the left that you can see before the sign. So, and they would fill up with kids and dump them all round Stanmore.
Oliver's Battery.
And Oliver's Battery. Thank you. Thank you. Right, and here's EOR again. Still on Southampton Common, as you can see. And then this is the Hampshire Field Club on an outing. They're looking over the River Severn. It's quite amazing, isn't it? We know that because it's written on the back of that. If you can work it out from inside that. Back in the Broadway, we're back into February 73. Do you think that it was the young lady or 595 that was attracting Robert's attention here? Yeah.
It's the same young lady.
Yeah, well, you never know. Looking through the archway of the West Gate, a view that caught Ray Stenning's imagination as well. Okay, that's the back of a Leyland Leopard. Look at that, the back of a bus, girls. What you'd like to see. Crossing the city bridge. Here we are, Dillon Buildings. Now, our C&G Chisnall, the tobacconist, was somewhere on the left, wasn't it? I don't quite know where, to be honest, but one of those. And that's an awful 416, I think it is. They were horrible things, those buses. Yeah, but they were horrible. Take it from me. That's a 1930s picture of a not very good, actually. Here we have a Tiger Cub turning around with a Bedford in the background. And here we have now, look at the smoke billowing out of the... Yes, take down Meads. Actually, it doesn't look too bad in that picture, but it's interesting to look across at Chilbolton Avenue. And Chilbolton Avenue has changed from those sort of houses. It's now very closely to whatever. This is the morning after the night before, everybody. This is the old Chesil yard, and here the Hants and Dorset have got the buses out and parked them to look at them. And as you can see, they haven't yet got their fleet numbers on, which is quite interesting. But they will have. So it was a very strange day that was. That's a bit lovely, coming up the walls, isn't it? A pale bus. Now you can be tanned in that shop on the right, what used to be Murray's Corner. Here's another bus off to the Knackers Yard, look, 382. This one would drive. Notice how the statue's been blotted out on the side. Very sad. Here's a postcard of the Broadway, much older. I should say 1955-ish. Notice the bus stops in the Broadway. That's quite gone. And the little tree that's now huge next to the bus in the middle. It's a vast thing that smashes all the buses up. And here is the little Dennis in its days, I think, as the transport for the Titchfield School. Because Keith has produced a most amazing book about Titchfield, which has a picture, we've never seen anything like this before, of that little Dennis belonging to the school in Titchfield where Robert Chisnell, the grandson of the founder, went to school. And that bus was given or sold to them and used by them, and that's why it survived, and of course we still own it today. Anyway, a picture has turned up today. The amazing thing about this interest is that things continue to come up new all the time. Right, next one is taken from St Giles's Hill, and there is 594. We've seen it already this evening, waiting to go off to the dump, very sadly. So that was about 1972. And here we're looking into the bus station. I don't know what Robert thought about that, but there was people in uniform. It's probably excited him. Anyway, there we go. And here we go right back. Now I can tell you who this is because on the back it says Driver Bray. And here we are. Now remember, these charabancs had no internal toilets, but the gentleman thought nothing of weeing over the side, so apparently. And if you don't believe me, Bill Isles told us that, and he was there. Well, he wasn't there on this particular trip, but he was definitely an eyewitness, so there you are. This is Bot 936. This is a very eclectic mix of things, as you can see. A fine-looking bus, 1936, I think, 1937, I'm not sure. Single-decker bus is starting to look serious. And here's Crawley Pond, another view. This is Ranelagh Road Arch. Rod Youngman will recognise that. Of course, he waits for number 2s now instead of number 3s, but there you are. But nothing's changed to the arch, of course. Here we are in the Broadway. That bus is actually going to Winnall, despite it says it's going to Alders Battery, because it's on that stand. Yeah. Here we have people going to Winnall, I suppose. 2 pale buses. A Scania now. Can you see where that is? Opposite the library, yes. Opposite, outside St Peter's Church. You certainly wouldn't want to be driving that way in a bus today. And that, although it says 00, it's a 5, of course, going up through Stanmore. That's a bit wibbly-wobbly, isn't it? 596, I think. Here's 107 doing a U-turn. The driver is, Robert used to call him the rat catcher. And he lived in King's Somborne, and one day when I was conducting, he came down the hill in his car and it wouldn't go. So he got as far as Western Road, my auntie's living in Stockbridge Road, and then he said, "Here, you wouldn't mind giving me a push, would you?" So I pushed him and ran behind the car all the way to City Road, and pushed and ran and pushed and ran. And when we got to the top by Murray's Corner, of course it went away, and I was left to walk to the bus station, so that was fun. The rat catcher. Here we have some goals on the corner of Murray's Corner. 596 in front of us and 59 something drifting down the walls. And a complete contrast, here we have the Deluxe. Now, what do you know about this Deluxe HO6407? The seats in it are in the Albion. Yeah. How about that then? And on the left is shower 2. So that's one of the first 2 showers. By this time they've got pneumatic tyres. Well, Mr. Bill Isles reminded me that going to London, they changed a wheel 16 times due to the reliability of pneumatic tyres in the mid-20s. And we're back to where we started. So the Metro Scania with one finger, Richard driving it round the corner. So that's Robert's little collection. And finally, tonight, we're going to go and see what Fred York had to say for himself. And we start his pictures, Union Street. This is the demise of Union Street. Now, Union Street is where you come down the walls, past the fire station on the right and the police station on the left, round the corner, leaving the road off to Wales Street in front of you. There is Union Street. And as you can see, it had buildings on both sides. Bird in Hand was one of those. I think Bird in Hand is the one building that still had windows behind the bus. So here's Mar 4, heading for the Broadway, as you can see. But this is all part of the destruction of old Winchester. And here we have a picture in Cromwell Road. Rod Youngman? Just for you. This is 102, hasn't featured so far. This is one of the other Tiger Cubs. And a fine telegraph pole. 103, and a Titan behind in the Broadway. Notice that saying Oslebury 15 and the blind that was pre-1965 for those who like blinds. Something happening in the Broadway. They've obviously staked off the centre, don't know why. And here we are in St Cross Road, yes, Southgate Street. Quite a strange place. This is on the 3A, which went round and round and round and round from Ranelagh Road to Cromwell Road and then across to Stony Lane.
It's outside Chris Webb's house, isn't it?
Yeah, Churnup Place, yes. And 3A never went to the Broadway. This went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I think the crews found it rather dreary, but...
Certainly the one time we did it on running day, the said driver did find it very weary.
Yeah, there you are. There you go. And here we have Stockbridge Road Arch coming into town. Look at the staircase down on the left. That would be a murderous place to get out from, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's still there. The fence is still there.
Yes, but blocked off at the bottom, presumably.
You can't use it.
And this is Andover Road. You'd hardly recognise this, would you? Cattle Market on the right, railway on the left. Coming down Andover Road from the railway bridge towards Worthy Lane. Yeah, the Tesco garage would be to the right of the bus, more or less where the telegraph pole is. But be sure your sins will find you out. This is 104, of course. You'll recognise that, won't you? Right, here is 104 again. This is inside the garage. 104 had a sort of crinkle on the front corner, unfortunately, in later life. And this is before repainting. The panels on the side are absolutely worn out. And Southgate Street again. And that is Worthy Road coming up. Even I recognise that. That's the great Bernie Holder driving. He has a grandson who works for on the buses now. The houses on the left have all gone, but the ones on the right still exist. And here, this is a very changed situation. And why do you think there would be a police officer, do you think, or a prison warden coming up there? What was he doing? Recovering that escaped prisoner, do you think? And here we are coming up. This is a changed scene now because, of course, it's got traffic lights and all kinds of things. But here is the number 4, barking its way up the hill. And here, we're in a different place altogether. On the left is the rising sun. And look at the cathedral on the horizon. We're climbing the hill to Morn Hill. And to see the sign that says slow, major road ahead. Incredible, really, isn't it? And an Austin A35. And if you look very closely, you can see Chisholm Garage down the bottom. But you have to look very closely for that. Here we are in North Walls. Coming in from the schools, no doubt. Romsey Road Top School. And here you can see that some of those houses have gone now. Here's Union Street. And the ones that had no windows in the first picture have now gone altogether. Leaving the heart, what's it called? What was it? The Bird in Hand was still there at that point. This must be 106, I think. Imagine this 74-seat bus coming back from East Stratton. And it would have been busy. And this is a famous picture taken in City Road. Still, that corner is still it looks very like that today. You've got one of the Titans, is it? Heading away in the distance. And 2 bridge masters. And here we are in City Road, a hive of activity. Amazing to think there were petrol pumps next to the street on the right hand side there. In the background, one of the 494s and 495, no, perhaps it isn't, I can't see it from here. 107, in the days when it still had 2 windows at the front. It had a collision, as you will have read in the Broadway Bulletin, those of you who read it. Tells you all about it. And here are 2 bridge masters, businesslike, heading down the walls at the top of Hyde Street. Notice that by this time 107 has lost its window. It's following the accident. So we got a 13 and a 16, so there it's about 1/2 the hour. And here we are, a group of Grisers. This is out at the end of Well House Lane. This is 323, which did a tour one Sunday. Here we are by the Odeon, and you can see the Odeon is actually happening. Notice how the bus is well out from the curb, and you wouldn't pass it coming down the walls after Week Estate. Here's our special bus again, and I really don't know where this is. And here we have John Sincock. This is at the Springvale Hotel, no doubt giving instructions to the driver. And this is in Stockbridge Road, heading towards my auntie's house, heading down from Berwick Road rather, which is behind. This is a bit of road that they've made much narrower now. It's almost impossible to pass two buses. It is not quite impossible, but it nearly is. This is Sutton Scotney, coach and horses. Here on a wet day, you've got 324 coming in past the Eagle Hotel. And here we have a King Alfred coach in Bournemouth. Why do we know it's in Bournemouth? Because you can see the trolley bus wires just above the back of it. It's our very own 326, I think, isn't it? And here's 327 in the coach garage. Just fits, indeed. And this is Eastgate Street with, can you believe, a Hanston Dorset bus on the right-hand side. And that's at the Chilbolton Avenue, end of Stockbridge Road, out of town. And here we have the same scene that we had before, and that's definitely coming downhill. Yes. And it's the same place as that other one. Yeah. It looks like it's going uphill, doesn't it? But it is actually, what I said was right. Where that site is, that's where the petrol station is. Cattle market on the right. And here is, this would have been much harder work. You would not have done this with a single finger. Mary Curry tells me that when she first passed her test, the first time she went on her own on a Oliver's battery, she got halfway around that corner and realised she didn't have any more road. So that was a bit awkward. Notice that this bus is running with the front doors open, even though it's a wet day. King Alfred buses ran from April to October with the front doors open regardless. Because, why wouldn't you? Because the back doors are open, so why not the front ones? Here we are down at the bottom of Stanmore, outside the garage. That's the bit of garage that got torn down when the Hanston Dorset fitter drove 418 round it. Here we are coming up Sussex Street. Lovely sunny day. Here we are at the site of a fire last week by the West Gate. Look at the Vauxhall Victor going out that side of the... It was a Marston's pub then. Anyway, on we go. This is one of those lovely Bedfords coming up the walls. Yeah, but the wall hadn't fallen down then or been repaired. The driver is Frank Stevens, anyone wants to know. And this is the Jolly Farmer. And although it says take down 19, the reason for that is that bus did Saturday afternoons, Hairstock 20, take down 19, Hairstock 20, take down 19. So the conductor's already set it up for the next trip. Coming over the bridge, past the, in on the bridge, what it's called, the bridge on the sides, what's it called? Castle on the bridge on the castle? Bishop on the bridge, that's exactly right. Here we have some buses parked in the shed. Here we have 416. Remember the Wagon and Horses, anybody? A lot of pubs don't exist anymore, do they? Bird in Hand's gone, Wagon and Horses gone. And here we have 416 with a different sort of line squeezed into the space, but still going to Fisher's Pond. So very near the end of Fisher's Pond, I should think, which finished in 69. That's at the end of Union Street. So the bus has come from the Broadway, it's come around Union Street, and it's about to head up North Walls. Here's a Panther, 417. And the Albion Inn has just been reopened on the left-hand side. Again. This is Dean Lane. Silver and setting. Look at the old, very antique street lights. Here we're in North Walls. And this is Worthy Lane. And on the right is the St John's Ambulance headquarters now. 493. Here we are just breasting the railway in Chesil Street. Coming up over the top of North Walls. Heading for the Stockbridge Road Arch. Nowadays there's always a great long queue there. And sitting in the Broadway. Yeah, so we know that's the 5 to the hour because the Springvale went at 10 to and the number 2 went at 25 to every hour. So wet, isn't it? Look at the milk float. When TV maintenance could be contracted for 3 shillings a week, that's 15p. It's quite something. Here's a weak estate. Can you imagine a city with just a bus and nothing else? Coming back from a Milan Road, heading up from Bar End. 16 was Highcliffe to Oliver's Battery. Here we are, Stockbridge Road. Coming down that hill again, I think. It says Winchester on the front, that's a clue, isn't it? And look at the sweat on the brow of that bicyclist. Okay, into the Broadway. We've got an intruder here. But look at this depot, look at the destination. Broadway only 4A. So
we used that on a Saturday afternoon's relief.
There we are. Yeah, so it'll come back as a 4A,
Yeah.
but come back up the hill.
Yeah, so back up the hill, end of right away.
Yeah. Wow. And how about a trip to Overton on 596 then? Pretty good. 595 working up the walls. 595 again in Stockbridge Road. Passing my auntie's house, almost exactly outside of it actually. It's not quite, because that's Hatherley Road in the background. Notice it's at 8/9. Now, if you see more than 2 people on the 16 to Broughton, it's where's that was from Broughton. Here we are at the castle, Westgate. Look at the 66 behind. And look at Noreen Bell on the platform of the open doors of 595. Eastgate Street, heading for the Broadway. See what I mean about all over the place? Here's an action shot with 2 Leyland Titans in it, turning into Drury Street, top of North Walls. It's a bit amazing, isn't it? Going to Fisher's Pond. And here we are at Fisher's Pond, just passing the Fisher's Pond, where the bus would reverse in the main and the junction. Extraordinary, isn't it? Wouldn't do that now. The Titan 707 on the Week Estate. Nice Jaguar behind. Our very own 708 on number 4, as you'd expect. 809. Number 17 route. Here's 809 again. Here's 809 again. City Road. Murray's Drugstore. That's interesting, isn't it? Here we have 822 heading for Sparsholt. A pale bus heading for Sparsholt. And look, there's Bogey Bennett in the cab. Poor chap. He was a nice man. Now this is at Stockbridge Outstation. This is a pale bus standing in the yard at Stockbridge Outstation. And here it is. And there's Bogey Bennett again. He pops up all over the place. So this is Stockbridge Road. Notice that there's already an Indian restaurant, the Taj Mahal. Here we're going to Worthy Down. So this looks like a daytime one, so it's the 12 o'clock Worthy Down, which only ran on a Saturday. Even this doesn't have too many people on. I think that's the last one. Yes, it is the last one. So the pleasure of showing you the last picture was given to 856, if you see what I mean. So, folks, it's just a selection of pictures from the past, most of which we knew where they were, and occasionally we didn't. The most important thing to say to all of you is thank you very much for coming, because without your presence, whether you're new to the scene or you've been part of it for yonks and yonks and yonks, you're all vital to it. And the power of the Friends of King Alfred buses is you. And that's really, really... So give yourselves a round of applause, please. Because we're very blessed and we're very lucky that we have a wonderful group supporting what we do. And as a result, we do achieve a great deal. And remember, King Alfred Motor Services, Richard and Maureen will allow me to say this, was a very small company in the context of the big wide world, but we have managed and we continue to manage to keep its name in lights, and it has a profile way above its size even today. And I think it's very good. That's what we set out to do. We'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary on the 31st of May 2025, so in less than 6 months' time. So keep that date free in your diary, because we're going to have a bit of a jamboree on that day. So on the 31st of May, it's a Saturday, it's very convenient as it happens, and that is going to be that's the 40th anniversary of 35 people, some of whom are in this room today, who came together. Chris is another, Ian is one, Rod is another, Paul is another, who came together and together we formed the Friends of King Alfred Buses, and look what's happened since then. 16 buses later, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of members later, there we are. Now most people want to go, so I'm going to say thank you very much, Happy Christmas, see you in 2025, thanks for your support, goodbye.